So Mr. Myers here, what he did was he polled his congregation.
According to an October 2022 Summit Ministries and McLaughlin and Associates poll.
Well, okay. Expressing myself, being myself, existing in society, and talking to other people. Is this the crime that they think is going to ruin society? And I've been on that mission for 9 years now, expressing my inner essence of my gender identity. So you went for your church to a former porn star in your poll against trans people. You're really doing the work there, aren't you, minister? Okay, that's kind of funny. You gotta admit, that's kind of funny. Oh, you pulled your church. Hello, hello, and thank you for joining me. It's Brandy's World, and I'm Brandi Beckett. Today, we are taking another look at Generation Indoctrination, the Transgender Battle, which is a podcast that is brought to us by the Christian Post and hosted by one of their journalists, Brandon Showalter. So in this season, Brandon teams up with a minister. Yes, this guy, Jeff Myers. I think his name is Jeff Myers. He's a minister for, I forget the name of his ministry, but whatever. So those two wrote a book, and it's an ebook, and it's for free, which tells me immediately it's probably just some propaganda that to get you into the pews of their church or subscribe to their online services. One of or both of those things I feel is the main goal of this ebook because it's for free and I'm just putting up a flag. I'm going to point up a flag. I don't know. Speculation. I'm putting up a flag. That might be just propaganda. But we're going to find out. So this season two, because the entire season is the minister Jeff Myers and the journalist Brandon Showalter promoting their book. They're going to be giving excerpts. Apparently, that's what they're. I think that's what's going to happen through the season. We're going to find out for sure, but I suspect what's happening. So let's listen to what they have to tell us in season two, episode one.
I frequently asked why I focus so much on the nature of biological sex. Because, in my view, this may be reality's last.
Oh, okay, so right away, immediately, the whole show is about gender. What was the first thing to come out of this man's mouth? Biological sex. That's not gender. We're not talking about biological sex at all. When we talk about gender, we're not talking about your sexual characteristics.
Undeniable fact can be denied en masse. Then we become hostages of it. We simply cannot afford to lose our collective tether to reality.
Sexual characteristics ties you to reality? I guess news to this guy. Reality will go on whether it's tethered to your genitals or not. Your genitals are not that important. Talk about game thinking reality is tied to your genitals.
Colin Wright, evolutionary biologist. I'm not obsessed with gender. I'm obsessed with preservation of a functional society. Ours will fail. We allow some to impose their personal fictions on others. Brett Weinstein, evolutionary biologist. Transgenderism has exploded across the world in the past decade, particularly in the West. The Williams Institute, the UCLA Law School, reports the number of young people identifying as transgender has doubled in just the last few years. The 1 out of 5 people who identify as transgender are 13 to 17 years of age. The number of minors in America receiving a diagnosis of gender dysphoria tripled from 2017 to 2021, with more than 42,000 receiving the diagnosis in 2021. On the popular social media platform TikTok, hashtag trans has logged 50.2 billion views as of this writing, having nearly doubled in the last year. Many people are disturbed by this. Few are as disturbed as they ought to be.
Disturbed as they ought to be. Are you listening to your argument there? I think is this the Jeff Myers guy? Yeah. Are you listening to your argument? They are not as disturbed as they should be about a social movement. And what is that social movement? It is for people to be recognized with equality and normality in society. You don't want that. You're pushing against the social movement. Your argument would, I hope, and I believe is going to sound ridiculous in like 50 years from now. Let's look back in history and apply your argument to other social movements. Apply it to the civil rights movements of the 1960s and the 1970s, right? Go back 50 years. Does your argument, you people in your position may have made that before as well? Ministers might have said that in their pulpit and their writings. They may have made that exact same argument against the civil rights movement. It wasn't right then, and it's not right now, but it has the same effect, and it's rooted in the same arguments, right? Just replace trans people with whatever group of minority social people who are trying to be recognized with equality. A marginalized group trying to be recognized always going to have arguments against them. Your argument is not good. It's not empathetic. And it's not productive. And it's archaic. I said it. Your argument is archaic. It's the best description. That's the nicest I can be to this argument of yours. You're trying to erase a class of people, a group of humans, by who they are. If you get that, you're trying to harm people because of who they are. That's not good.
We face is an unprecedented coupling of postmodernist academic theory with an internet fueled social contagion targeting vulnerable boys and girls who are struggling with their God given self. This has given birth to what we call transgender ideology or gender ideology, which in turn is fueling a medical and social scandal that ambushes our very understanding of reality itself.
Society will fail if people like me, transgender people, do what to others? I, I don't understand that part. That's the misconnect. Talk to us? That's what I'm doing right now. I'm talking to others. I'm going as far as I am asking people to question their gender identity. Whoa, how can you do that, Brandi? That's going to make society crumble. It's easy. And you know what? It's one of the easiest questions to answer, especially if you're a cis person. Like most of society, think on this. 98% of all people in society are out there, somewhere around 98%. They agree with the gender label assigned to them at birth. So asking yourself that question as a cis person is easy. Oh yeah, I look inside, think about myself, the inside person, think about the expression on the outside, think about the label I was assigned. For a cis person, they all align. Beautiful. Easily answered, no issues. Small percentage of society, small percentage of humans, when we look inside, we identify ourselves, and it does not align with this binary system that we've constructed for our labeling system. In our society, we constructed this binary labeling system. Basically, it's boxing. Basically, it's boxing, right? Well, as example, e.g., myself, when I question that, what is my gender identity? I'm not talking about my gender expression on the outside. I'm talking about the gender identity, the inside, the inner me, the core essence of me. What is that? Is that gender? For me, yeah. For me, yes, it fits. My identity fits into the box, actually. On a spectrum, it fits over in the feminine, as we describe femininity in our society. I fit into there. When I look on the inside, ask myself that question. So then I ask myself another question. Should I express my identity? Should I express who I am from my inner essence? Me? Yes. Express. Let's try to express that. Let's try to express it the best we can. And I've been on that mission for 9 years now, expressing my inner essence, my gender identity. And I think I'm doing a decent job of expressing it. I think I'm getting pretty close to my inner image of myself. So for me, asking that question of what is my gender identity, it was a little complicated. And it took a little while to quite figure out when I honestly answered and honestly asked those questions. And when I started figuring it out, I got to really know and connect with myself. And when I am able to pull that out and express that, it really makes me feel whole and me. I feel awesome about myself when my expression is close to my identity. It's a great feeling. Expressing myself, being myself, existing in society, and talking to other people. Is this the crime that they think is going to ruin society? Because that's what I'm doing. I am a transgender activist. I speak publicly about my journey in transgenderism, as you like to say. However you want to say, my expression of my identity. That journey I share with people. I think I should have quality in society, and I should be treated with normality in society. And I think that I'm not special. I think that I am an American citizen and an empathetic human being. And I think that other transgender people and other non-binary people or not cis people, I think they should have equality and normality as well. So I tell my story. I share my journey. I share my opinion. And at the core of that, sharing who I am. And you're trying to say that who I am is a problem for society. Being me and existing is an issue and a problem for you. That's what you're starting off saying. Unless I'm completely misunderstanding your statement. Hopefully you cleared it up a little bit better.
This is not a right versus left issue. Vast majority of Americans, Republicans, independents, and nearly a majority of Democrats as well, think that the transgender movement has gone too far by encouraging minors to transition through drugs and surgery. According to an October 2022 Summit Ministries and McLaughlin and Associates poll.
Oh, okay. That Summit's ministry. That dawned on me right now. Because at the beginning I was like, I don't know what ministry this guy's with. I know what ministry he's with now. I remember. I read it was the Summit Ministry. So Mr. Myers here, what he did was he polled his congregation online, I'm assuming, and also maybe he has a brick and mortar house with a steeple on it, right? Maybe he has this big church. I don't know. However he got his congregation, he polled them. After how many sermons has he given that were not very favorable about transgender people. I'm sure he's given a few of those, right? And then he's like, oh, and by the way, how do y'all feel about transgender people in this poll I'm going to send out? It might be a little skewed. Your poll might be slightly not fair. You might have a little n in your statistics that is not exactly going to be representing representative of the larger n in your statistical study. So yeah, your selection group that you're polling does not represent the society we live in. It represents your group of friends that listen to the stories you tell them. Okay, but that's what you're going on. Hey, I gave sermons to my congregation, and the sheepish congregation spewed back what I was telling them. And guess what? It's against trans people. Wow, it's weird. It must be divine. Oh, goodness. I you got a reflection in your social mirror telling you things you wanted to hear in a poll you put out to people you already communicate with. Yes, you got exactly the poll you were hoping to get. Doesn't mean it is accurate or it describes the society everyone else lives in, or even the society you live in. Doesn't describe anything but your circle of friends. Oh, you polled your church. Okay, that's kind of funny. Got it. That's kind of funny.
News interview, transsexual activist Buck Angel agreed with these results, saying that things are accelerating in a
Wait, wait. It gets better. So you polled your congregation, and then you sent out the results. And who do you quote? Did I hear that right? You quoted Buck Angel? Angel. Buck Angel. I whoever you want, but I'm so curious. How do you get in contact with? Are you buddies with Buck Angel? I don't follow Buck Angel. I know the name because Buck Angel was a porn star. So you went from your church to a former porn star in your poll against trans people. You're really doing the work there, aren't you, Minister?
In reference to the social media contagion that seems to be the transgender movement's primary accelerant, the British lesbian activist Kate Harris said, our major concern is that millions of impressionable children are watching these online influencers. It's no coincidence that the growth of TikTok coincides exactly with the exponential growth of children presenting with gender dysphoria.
Correlation does not dictate causation. Because it's a we noticed that this thing got popular and this social movement is happening. So you didn't tie the two together?
And the gay neuroscientist Simon LeVay, whose research led to the claim that homosexuality is genetically heritable, has expressed a skepticism about the transgender movement. An article in a leading LGBTQ publication quotes LeVay as saying, we may be overly supportive of gender non-conforming kids, thinking that they might be transgender, so advocating giving them hormones or castrating them at an early age. We should always love our kids as they are, whatever, but don't tell them that their sexuality is a done deal before puberty.
Wow, that's just a big old straw man. That's what it means to be a trans kid. Oh, goodness. They had one good message in there. Love your child for who they are. And if they're expressing to you that they are not cis or non binary, not fitting into the binary system of labels, then love them. Love them. Love them for the label of your child and human first before you want to love a label before your child. And why would you put any label before loving your child? What transgender children need is support, is affirmation. Affirmation is social. Most of the affirmation for a transgender child is social affirmation. You don't have to use your sign name. You don't have to use your assigned pronoun binary system. Talk to your child. Ask them, well, what name makes you feel the most you? And learn that name. And ask your child, what set of pronouns best describe and fit onto you? And then learn them. Can you learn a couple things for your child that don't hinder or do anything and put a barrier to loving your child? In no way of learning those two things, getting that information from your child and learning two things can put a barrier and separate you from loving them. And if it does, you need to question what love means to you and what your relationship with your child means to you. Because the only thing I can see is you loving a label more than loving your child. And that's what these people are asking y'all to do is love a label. Love philosophical system that they really like and apply it to everyone, even though not everyone believes in it. Just apply it to everyone anyway. I think that's the fair and equal thing to do to an American citizen, to an American child. Because that's what they're talking about. They're talking about American children here. And they're talking about denying affirmation and support for American children. Does that have that causes pause for me? Does that cause pause for you? And if it doesn't, why not?
Links of transgender ideology are predictably met with withering rebuke. They're labeled transphobic, racist, and even criminal. Vitriol seems especially intense when the criticism arises from within the LGBTQ community. One activist called LeVay's remarks quoted above as beyond irresponsible,
Yeah.
implying that comments foster bullying and aggression. Tweets from singer Bette Midler and author J.K. Rowling expressing concern about the diminishment of womanhood were roundly condemned in forceful and often vulgar ways, even though both women have been longtime supporters of the LGBTQ movement.
Have they? I don't know much about Bette Midler's activism. I haven't really heard much about it. I know she's a great singer and a great actress and an interesting person. I don't know her stance on gender issues. But I've been trying to avoid and cannot avoid J.K. Rowling's name associated with slander towards transgender people. I don't even have to look far into any source of media to realize she's not a big supporter of the T in the LGBTQIA. It, no, it doesn't seem right to me that she could bash the T and say I'm a supporter. So I would call her not a good supporter. At the very kindest, not a good supporter. So why mention those people? Why don't you mention amazing supportive people? But you don't want to give us the fair shake or what?
Yet what commentators debate about breakdown of women's sports, the eccentric demand that each of us select our own pronouns, or else the unexpected influence.
Or else, or else you look like a social asshole. You know, it's part of the social contract. If someone greets you and says, "Hi, my name is X, my pronouns are Y," you say, "Glad to meet you, person X. Thank you for sharing your pronouns with me. I will use them in the future. Bye bye, pronoun Y. It was nice to meet you, person X." Why is that hard? Is it because you don't you don't like that individual or you don't like I don't understand. Help me understand that. What is it that you can't hold up your social contract and recognize someone's pronouns when they're told to you, hey, this is important to me. These are my pronouns. Would you want someone just to use a different name for you or different pronouns for you? Just to be a jerk to you? No, you wouldn't. Neither would anyone else. All it takes is a little bit of empathy. Just a smidge of empathy, and you can learn these simple things. Someone tells you their pronouns, learn. We learn how to go through TSA. We learn how to do things socially that are not innate to us, that are sometimes hard to learn. You have to learn basic math to exist in our society. You can learn simple pronouns. Willful ignorance is not a good shield to stand behind. It shines a bright spotlight on your being a jerk, really. Honestly, that's what happens when you stand behind willful ignorance. You look like a social jerk. And if that's what you're going for, you're kind of nailing it. Don't hide behind willful ignorance. Learn a couple of things. It's not hard. You can be empathetic. You can you can adapt and love someone. You can love a whole group of people if you really put your empathetic heart to it.
Of the TikTok social media platform and the foisting of drag queen fetishism on unsuspecting children. These are but symptoms of a deeper problem that no amount of editorializing, whether scornful or admiring, can dismiss. Borrow an oft-repeated line from King Solomon, there is nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9. Gender confusion is not new. What is new in human history, however, is the unprecedented boosterism of this confusion to a perfect storm of culture-making institutions clamoring for attention, government bureaucrats opportunistically expanding their power, medical industrial complex soullessly yearning for financial enrichment. As we will see, long before the public began noticing that something odd.
What does that any of that have to do with someone expressing their identity and you telling them it's not okay? Yeah, screw the entire medical industry in the United States. It sucks. We're the richest nation this planet's ever seen, and we treat our healthcare in a classist method. Whether you have money, you have better healthcare. When you don't have money, you don't have access to the healthcare as the rich. That is not good for the richest nation that has ever been on this planet. So yes, I'm with you and screw the entire medical system. That does not give you the right to bash on the trans people who face extra hard hurdles in our medical system. So, yeah, it's not nice. It's not being nice.
That something odd was going on in popular culture discussions of gender ideology. The battle for the high ground had long been won. Churches that adhere to a historic Orthodox biblical worldview are among the few places where any dissent is found. Our concern in this book is mainly about the impact of gender ideology on children, teenagers, and young adults. Because gender ideology is being taught in schools, and because of the ideological capture of the medical system, countless troubled young people have been brainwashed into a youth onset delirium in which denial of objective reality is seen as a commendable social good. Unlike other treatment modalities for issues such as addiction, medical professionals handling transgender treatment are told to encourage the patient's delusions. And if the patient is a minor, demand that the parents do so as well, or else. The natural flow of this highly choreographed treatment plan is the intentional infliction of disease through the off-label experimental use of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. Eugenic sterilization is not a side effect. It is a predictable outcome. Treatment is carried out to its prescribed end. Many of these patients are now realizing that the horrendous diseases they have experienced because of this experimental treatment have permanently damaged their bodies without healing their souls. A growing number of them are finding their bodies irreversibly disfigured due to radically invasive and medically unnecessary surgeries. When faced with legal liability, doctors, hospitals, and pharmaceutical companies hide behind standards of care crafted by a handful of activists inside various medical associations. Or after the kind of evidence we would expect to ground modern medical treatment. Impossibly short statutes of limitation practically guarantee that doctors are far removed from liability by the time serious symptoms present themselves, which is often a decade after treatment. There is a spiritual element as well. The debate over gender ideology has revealed a raging fury against the idea that human beings bear the image of God. Nowhere is indignation more clearly seen than in the deconstruction of the very definition of male and female.
Oh, irony kind of drips as you do that. Y'all saying this with the power of a pulpit behind you, and the power of Christianity, and the power of mythology. Dare I say? Dare I say that you believe in supernatural forces are controlling the personalities of hominids on our planet right now? Cultural construct of deities and cultural construct of hierarchy and the cultural construct of surviving your death in an afterlife. You're saying that is the true reality, and what we look around and interact with other humans and explore what it is like to be human, that is not the reality. I discovered my gender identity. I looked inside myself and discovered it. That is where your gender identity comes from. It comes from within you. And within you is the only thing you could really, really, truly know, right?
Like other treatment modalities for issues such as addiction, medical professionals handling transgender treatment are told to encourage the patient's delusions. And if the patient is a minor, demand that the parents do so as well, or else.
Or else. No, what they're saying is affirm. It's not a demand. It's affirm your child's identity or its goodness. Or what's going to happen if you stifle their identity? How are they going to go through life stifling who they are? Do you want your child to go through life stifling themselves? Hiding themselves from society? That sounds awful. If they had support and affirmation, they could express who they are. That is the message that these medical experts are trying to get across to the transgender families.
The natural flow of this highly choreographed treatment plan is the intentional infliction of disease through the off-label experimental use of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormone.
Puberty blockers are not experimental. Puberty blockers are for cis and non-cis children, trans children and cis children. Okay? They are not permanent damaging medicine. They simply slow down or block an onset of a hormone rush that your body is trying to do. It blocks it. Later can be discussed hormone replacement therapy. It is not necessarily something you introduce immediately at a young child. You block that unwanted set of puberty. And then later, when they are more developed as a person, as a human, a little bit older than a young teen, maybe an older teen, maybe even into the 20s, they introduce the hormone replacement therapy. The hormones that are going to rush into the body and create the puberty that is going to better suit their identity. It help them express their identity much better. So these are very good and well documented treatments for gender dysphoria, and they work well. They work so well. In fact, I'll put up some studies here. Here's what the WPATH has to say about this treatment. Okay? See, and here's some more studies about how well treatment works for gender dysphoria. Treating gender dysphoria is one of the best treatments we have medically. It works. It has one of the best success rates. These people are going to demonstrate time and time again examples outside of the bell curve of treatments for people, right? Any medical treatment, you're going to find people who it didn't work for. And if you want to only focus on them and interview them and talk about their stories, that's going to be sad and tragic because it didn't work for them. They maybe weren't a good candidate for the treatment. Maybe whatever aspects didn't work for them. You look at the whole overall treatment when you're talking about the treatment itself. Does it work for its target community that it's trying to work for? Does gender dysphoria treatments work for transgender people? Yes, very, very well. Look at the results. Very well. Very satisfied patients. I am one of those very satisfied patients. Okay? Any medical treatment is going to have a percentage of people it does not work for. That's the way statistical things work.
Eugenic sterilization is not a side effect. It is a predictable outcome. Treatment is carried out to its prescribed end. Many of these patients are now realizing that the horrendous diseases they have experienced because of this experimental treatment permanently damaged their bodies without healing their souls. A growing number of them are finding their bodies irreversibly disfigured due to radically invasive, medically unnecessary surgeries. When faced with legal liability, doctors, hospitals, and pharmaceutical companies hide behind standards of care crafted by a handful of activists inside various medical associations.
They hide behind standards of medical practices. That's what you're arguing against. And they have specialized medical experts who give their advice on these treatments. Yes, this is what I was pointing to. Those are the medical experts who talk about their expertise in the field. Yeah, that's who you want talking about these issues, is the people who understand and work in the field. Right? Would you agree with that?
Or after the kind of evidence we would expect to ground modern medical treatment. Impossibly short statutes of limitation practically guarantee that doctors are far removed from liability by the time serious symptoms present themselves, which is often a decade after treatment. There is a spiritual element as well. The debate over gender ideology has revealed a raging fury against the idea that human beings bear the image of God. Nowhere is this indignation more clearly seen than in the deconstruction of the very definition of male and female. Sincere and faithful Christians cannot remain on the sidelines. We must speak with biblically informed, passionate wisdom. Philosophical and moral questions are complex.
Oh, people. All right. I'm going to end this. Okay. Until next time, we're going to get more into season 2 of Generation Indoctrination, Transgender Battle. But for now, love yourself, but more importantly, like yourself, and treat people the way they want to be treated. Bye bye for now.